What's up, everybody? This is Jay from Fantasy Labs and John, and we're bringing you a pod live from San Diego. John, how's it going? John slept on the floor last
I
night.
did sleep on the floor, in fact. I wish it was a bit sunnier, though, in the back for us. We got here yesterday, and, it was beautiful. I basically, stripped off my pants in the middle of the street and put on shorts immediately.
Come on.
But then, now we're trying to record a podcast. Look at it. It's all gray. And
Yeah, it's bleak for sure out
I think
there.
the sun will be shining a bit later. We'll be fine.
Yeah, I hope so. Definitely. But yeah, we got a nice slate. We're gonna break down this 8-game slate, DraftKings live final as well. So
There's one other person here, by the way. The sun came out the moment he shined.
yeah,
The moment he started doing his
stay
Kent Bazemore
there, yeah.
video bomb. Yeah.
Oh my God! All right, let's jump into this slate if you're down, John. First,
You
up,
did say we're live from the Hard Rock, right?
no, I didn't say Hard Rock.
Oh, okay.
I don't care about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You gotta get the location out as well, but that's fine. It's okay. Do you want to start the slate now? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Is that the whole point of being here? All right, let's start a big 8-game slate, by the way. DraftKings Championship tonight, and they chose the right night as we have some killer lines. And we start with the Cavs at the Magic. Cavs are 7.5-point favorites, a 211.5 over, which come to find out is going to be the second lowest of the night, third lowest of the night, I believe.
It's second.
It's a crazy, crazy night. But either way, we can definitely start with some injuries here.
Yeah, we got every game. Every game on the slate is really juicy. It's like DraftKings knew ahead of time and actually planned it, so it's pretty cool. But yeah, we got injury-wise, LeBron rested last game. He's obviously fully expected to play in this one, which is nice for him. On the Magic side, we got Vucevic is already ruled out with a strained right groin. We got Alfred Payton questionable with a sprained right elbow. Game time decision. Then we got Ilyasova questionable with a knee injury as well. So starting things off with the Cavs side, 7.5 favorites on the road. I typically like these spots for LeBron where the spread's not that big. They're not at home. He has a higher minute security on the road usually. So I definitely like the spot for LeBron. Coming off a rested game, should be ready to go. Not worried about the matchup at all. So I think he's kind of a cash game play. They're implied at a really high total for Cleveland here. So he's kind of the only guy I'm looking at in cash on this team. I think you can, look at Love and Kyrie in tournament formats as well.
And I think LeBron, to your point, a $600 decrease at DraftKings. I guess because they're so reactionary, overnight, that the whole resting thing got them to drop his salary. But I mean, only $9,300 now. That's crazy price for his production.
The sites definitely factor in ownership, and we've seen small forwards have value lately where LeBron hasn't really been as highly owned. So this dip is definitely nice, and I think it's a slate. People will still overlook him. I like targeting him at that price with his floor. Even going back from when Ty Lue became coach, he's had a consistently higher floor. So definitely like the spot a lot for him, and not really looking at anybody else on the Cavs side too much here.
Orlando, though, we really need to discuss their minutes and players above all. Because as you said, Alfred Payton, questionable for tonight. Brandon Jennings would obviously open up as he started their last 2 games in place of Payton. And then Aaron Gordon, his minutes are all over the place. Andrew Nicholson has, for some reason, played more minutes than him the last 2 games. So, Oladipo, I think, is the strongest tournament play, though.
Yeah, it's tough to really target guys in cash on this slate, given the multitude of great games and matchups we have, and obviously facing the Cavs is not one of them. And then you throw in the Skiles factor of you don't even know if your guy's going to play more than 26 minutes. It's just kind of a void at all costs in cash. Brandon Jennings is the guy. I think if Elf is out, I think Jennings honestly will start regardless, but obviously we like him a lot more if Elf is out. So I think he's probably the guy you can look at the most just because he's cheaper on DK. So I'd look at him maybe in cash on DraftKings if some of these other value plays don't really open up and you need to save. I'm fine with, but on FanDuel where you have a looser salary cap, I don't like targeting these guys. I don't think there's as much as a need to save money and go these guys. But yeah, I agree. I think Depot's the most appealing tournament play here.
And Fournier, despite his minutes, just a terrible matchup overall with LeBron. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's not really a great spot for him.
You just have so much downside with Scott Skiles' minutes and yanking him around that it's not really worth it, especially on this slate.
But as we said, that's a game that really you don't even have to have much exposure towards since all these others are so juicy. And speaking of which is Thunder at the Sixers. Thunder's 15.5-point road favorites and an over of 219.
Yeah, not a good spot. I think this is one that people will look at, and you get the Sixers on back-to-back, poor defense, Thunder coming in on the road. I think this one could definitely get out of hand. The Thunder play tomorrow as well, so this isn't a scenario where I think they'll push their players in the fourth quarter. I think this third quarter, that lead gets to 15. I think they'll sit the fourth. So it's a risky spot. I think high risk, high reward as far as Durant and Westbrook. But let's jump into some plays here. So the only injuries really, Covington and Rashawn Holmes are still sidelined for the Sixers. Nothing going on with the Thunder. So speaking of the Thunder, so with the 15.5-point spread, we got the biggest guy who stands out for me with that spread is Enes Kanter, who's just been on a tear lately, offensive rebounding, really crashing the boards, put back layups, has a really actually high floor. Yeah, 33.1 DK points over his last 6 games. And you throw in this spread, it makes it him a really safe option, really. I don't see many scenarios where this game is close enough to where Kanter doesn't really play big minutes. He can get some serious burn in the fourth quarter. So I'm looking at him as more of a cash play, even all relative, of course, than Durant and Westbrook.
Yeah, and the Kanter thing, the good thing about him is that he only doesn't play in blowouts. Like if the blowout is just an hyperbole, like if it's extreme, like Portland 2 nights ago, in which like he started off the fourth quarter. He only got like 23 minutes total, I believe, but he still produced like 33 DraftKings points in that limited amount of span until they had a 30-point lead, and then he was taken off the court. So even in a blowout scenario, unless it gets too crazy, which I don't believe it should, he should be just fine in this one. The real one we need to talk about, though, is Russ. Because much is being made right now about his splits against Philadelphia in general. Just this season, a line of 21, 17, 11. However, I don't think many people are noting that it was without Durant. Like, that's clearly a big deal. Now, if you want to go back to last season, 49, 15, and 10, and 27, 7, and 5. So clearly he can produce against Philadelphia, which their backcourt defense, obviously, like that's an obvious statement. But given the other plays, yeah, the blowout is certainly worrisome, especially since other players at 10K are in closer salaries.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. I think Russ has an incredibly high floor. I would definitely not oppose him in cash, of course, if you can fit it well. If we get some of these value plays opening up, and Brandon Jennings, that might necessitate going him, maybe on DK. If you want to afford Russ, where it's a bit harder on FanDuel, I think it's a little bit easier to afford Russ's high salary. So I don't mind it if the rest of your team fits and is put together nicely with value plays here and there, and you get some of these other high-priced studs. But the totals today are all really juicy, the implied team totals, and we got some close spreads. So this one's just one where you're kind of worried about the blowout, but Russ still has a really high floor and definitely a high ceiling, obviously. As well.
Yeah, I'm just saying the upside is really what you're paying for. Like, you're not worried about blowout. You're hoping he produces one of those 3-quarter triple doubles if you're paying for him. Yeah. You also, though, had mentioned that you like Ibaka for tournament play, correct?
Yeah, I don't mind Ibaka in some tournament play. I don't like the security, so obviously tourney only. But Philly does allow the third most shot blocks in the league this season, so I kind of like his upside. But it's more of just kind of a minutes concern. So a little bit of tournament exposure, I think, is fine for Ibaka.
For Philadelphia, though, obviously Jeremy Grant returned and just played 30 minutes out of nowhere.
I thought he was dead.
Yeah, I still don't get it. Like, he had a concussion, and then he just came back and was like, all right, no handcuffs, just go ahead.
Some NFL type stuff.
But Rashawn Holmes, Robert Covington's still out, which means that we're expecting Isaiah Cannon to start in place of Covington. Carl Landry will return to the bench. Only played 11 minutes last game since Jeremy Grant returned, so that train is now gone. But yeah, for cash at FanDuel, anyways, where his salary is only $3,900, Isaiah Cannon's still getting 27, 30 minutes. Like, I think he's still a great cheap play at FanDuel.
Yeah, I think he's fine. I think the ceiling isn't really too appealing, but I think the floor is fine with those minutes, and that's a very cheap price, especially if Alfred Payton plays. You can't really go Jennings. You need a cheap point guard. I don't mind Cannon there. I think like 20 points is fine, and I think you'll be pretty happy with 20 from him, but I just wouldn't expect more at all, and you might need more on this slate. You might need to put together your lineup where you're maximizing upside and floor from all these players. So it's a little trickier with him. It'll kind of see how the slate develops with value.
And then what about Ish Smith in your mind? And let's say Noel also. Like, where do you think they fall in tournaments?
Nerlens finally came through. He's been lackluster, I think, 3 or 4 games in a row with jaw out. kind of been waiting for him. He's just not been aggressive in the post offensively. So it's nice to see a big game from him. I definitely like, obviously this has blowout written all over it, so I don't love the minutes for Ish and Nerlens. We've seen Ish already have kind of decreased minutes to TJ McConnell. Young Nash getting some more burn here. So I'm looking at both these guys tournament only, but I do kind of like the upside that both of them have really against, a Thunder team that I don't think will be focusing as much energy on defense because they'll kind of be up all game anyways.
All right, well, we can go ahead and move on to the next one. Celtics at the Raptors. Raptors are 3-point favorites, and it's an over of 206. But there is some very important news to discuss here.
Jonas Jerebko?
Oh, yeah, that was definitely what I was talking about. He's going to miss the entire weekend. I mean, what are they going to do now with the rotation?
Can't we come to San Diego the weekend Jonas Jerebko's out? It's just a joke.
I know.
So, yeah, Jay Crowder, though, still sidelined, obviously a huge piece of the Celtics. We got Jonas Jerebko ruled out, which actually I think, in my opinion, is significant because Boston kind of loses their ability to go as small without kind of stretch Orr and Crowder as well. So without Crowder and Jerebko, we're going to see more traditional style, I believe, from Boston here. So it does affect things quite a bit. And then on the Raptors side, we got Kyle Lowry. We're considering questionable. He's likely to probably sit out this game for rest because he played last night. And then Valanciunas questionable with that left hand contusion. So obviously these two are very, very big. And on a night where DraftKings for this tournament at least doesn't have late swap, this is something that hopefully we get in time to monitor because we have Bismack, my boy Biyombo, putting up some video game numbers here. And then obviously Lowry being out would open up a few things as well. So before we get into the Raptors, let's go on to the Celtics side. So Raptors are on a back-to-back. I think playing in Toronto is pretty tough for most teams. Celtics are without Jay Crowder and Jerebko, so it changes a few things. Cash-wise, I'm not really looking at anybody too hard here on Boston because Toronto overall is a pretty solid defensive team, and we just have so many players in juicy spots here that I look at these guys more as tournament plays. I think Solinger definitely warrants some tournament exposure. I think Isaiah Thomas definitely warrants some tournament exposure, and even on DraftKings could be considered in cash an option. I don't love the matchup with Corey Joseph, assuming Lowry sits, but he's just underpriced on DK, and he did this morning call this game a must-win. So for a little bit of narrative street, that's an incentive as well.
Yeah, I think only Amir Johnson and Jared Solinger are tantalizing to me. It's only because of the minutes. Solinger, especially since his last game, only 20 minutes. And if you recall, in like the 3 games prior to that, since Crowder went out, he's been used so heavily in their rotation, not only averaging 29 minutes, but also producing like over 30 DraftKings points every single night. So for a bounce back tournament spot, I think it's great. But we need to talk about Kyle Lowry, if only because we say he played last night, so he's going to sit out tonight. But I mean, it's not just that. Dwayne Casey said he's sitting out either Thursday or Friday. He played Thursday, and today is Friday. That's part B, by the way. So, I mean, that's what we have.
Parts you got, John.
That's what we have to work with. So we just can only assume that Lowry's going to sit. So, Kojo.
See, I'm a little bit more skeptical than others. I think there's a chance Lowry could sit Sunday to get 4 days in a row off.
That is we'll part C. That's not what Dwayne Casey said.
Yeah, Dwayne Casey.
I think that's all I have. I think I'm out of parts now.
I'm just saying I wouldn't stone cold lock Lowry.
Right.
And anyways, this is a morning pod. By the time we're done, he'll probably be decided.
Oh, absolutely. But Corey Joseph, what would you do then?
Yeah, so this goes back to kind of some of these guys. We got Brandon Jennings an option, even Isaiah Cannon, cheap option. We have some point guard options. I think Corey Joseph, I'm willing to roll the dice with. He definitely burned everybody last game Lowry was out. But last season, he kind of had better consistent numbers. I still kind of I like him overall. I like his style of play. I think he can put up some points. I think he'll be safe enough if Lowry is out. I'm not looking at just one game, last game, and looking at kind of his floor there and expecting him to kind of hit his starting floor again. So I think if there is a lack of other kind of value point guards that turn out and you're kind of in need to save money, Corey Joseph is there, I'm fine going him in cash. I don't love the upside, speaking as far as tournaments, but he also does offer salary relief.
And also for tournaments, cash if Valanciunas is out. I mean, you talked about the cartoon numbers that Biyombo was putting up, 16 and 25 last night.
Yeah.
Still only 4,200 at FanDuel. Price hasn't changed. DraftKings now $400 more. Perfectly fine cash option if Valanciunas is out. Of course, it depends entirely on that. So definitely worth monitoring.
And Val was game time, so I could see him playing, but it is back-to-back. So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely something to monitor. We got Enes Kanter, not too much more than Biyombo, that I'm fine rolling in cash with that spread and obviously matchup there. But I love Biyombo. He's really putting together some good games here and seeing pretty big minutes with Val out. So I'm definitely fine with him in cash on both sides. On DK, obviously, you can start two centers, which I think is a strong option tonight in cash. So Biyombo, if Val's out, definitely a strong play there. And if Kyle Lowry's out, I think DeMar DeRozan definitely warrants some strong consideration as well. Very, very high usage rate with Lowry out.
And even Biyombo in tournaments. If Valanciunas plays, how many minutes do you think he'll even play?
Enough to cut into Biyombo's upside. Probably.
I would guess like
23 years.
Oh wow, I was gonna say 12 to 18, like somewhere, which is a big range, but I don't know. It's a hand injury, but
20, yeah. Well, it's the same hand. He's already.
I got my money on 18 or fewer, so we'll see how that goes.
If he plays, it's over.
We're gonna bet on that. Stellar units. Kings at Pistons. Pistons are 6.5-point favorites and over under of 211.
Yeah, another kind of mediocre total on this slate overall, which is crazy because it's 211. So I'll jump into the Kings injury report released late last night, as always. We got Marco Bellinelli, probable with sore right ankle. Omri Caspi, probable with a sore left ankle. Rajon Rondo, questionable with turf toe, among a few other injuries, I believe, just kind of overall banged up. And then Ben McLemore has already been ruled out with the non-displaced fractured right finger. So, and then on the Pistons side, we got Reggie Jackson, who was held out of practice due to shortness of breath, will play tonight, but he is not 100%. I think, it's a situation I'm kind of looking at avoiding there, just especially in cash, obviously, which he's not even a cash option anyways, but I don't like the not 100% for tournament upside with his minutes already a question. So, and then Jody Meeks, doubtful with sore left shoulder, but he's out of the rotation anyways.
So, with all those injuries now, let's discuss the Kings here. Collison, clearly a cash play, as he has been, if Rondo's out.
Yeah, I like him only if Rondo's out. I think there are just so many other options on this slate. I don't really like targeting Detroit's defense that much in Detroit here. So I think Collison's fine. And, he's not like dirt cheap anymore or anything. So if Rondo's out, definitely fine rolling Collison in cash. If Rondo's in, I'd look more at tournaments for Collison. And then, I think
Cousins.
Boogie. So Boogie's in an interesting spot. I think he'll kind of be overlooked on this slate, especially we got other very high-price options. Then we got guys at center like Kanter and Biyombo if Val's out. We have plenty of guys that are in the cheaper range I think most people will flock to, rightfully so. But I think in tournaments, I think Boogie offers immense value. Obviously on DK, it's a little different because Boogie's power forward. But regardless, I like targeting him as a strong tournament play.
Yeah, he's definitely one that people will see his salary, although not yet 11K. Like, he's 11-1 at FanDuel. But he's definitely someone that people will look at and just be like, well, I'm not paying for that. Like, it's an incredible spot, too, because Andre Drummond on defense, like, our opponent plus minus even, like, I believe it's 3 points something. My computer's recording right now, so I can't look at it. But
you still can.
It's a terrific matchup, though. I do like Cousins quite a bit in tournaments.
The big fear is obviously foul trouble with Drummond, but since he's tournament play only, you're not as worried about the foul trouble. That's why he's a tournament play. You get the upside. Obviously, there's some downside, but that's what you want out of tournament plays. You want them when they hit their upside.
And Drummond, of course, also probably a strong cash option, like beyond tournaments.
Yeah, Drummond has been underpriced severely as of late. Real quick, I will say I think Rajon Rondo is a decent tournament play if he plays. I think he'll be highly overlooked as well, and he's a bit cheaper on DraftKings as usual. But yeah, you can go on with Detroit.
All right, well, Drummond, I think that's a terrific matchup. I think beyond cash even, like just fine, or beyond tournaments, I think it's just fine for cash. Caldwell Pope as well, always guaranteed the minutes every single night. But, this matchup with Sacramento's backcourt, like since he will get those minutes, he could easily exceed value.
Yeah, I think he has a very solid floor right now, the way he's playing. And Obviously the high minutes is a strong plus at shooting guard, where we're often finding ourselves picking between guys we don't really like. We're not too high on because shooting guard overall is a little bit weak. So I think with the minutes, floor, and the matchup, I think KCP is a pretty strong cash option, especially on FanDuel here.
And then for the rest of their lineup, and Reggie Jackson going to play, illness, but I mean, even with this matchup, I don't know. Like tournament, sure, he's definitely going to be overlooked, but I just don't think with other options, like he's too strong of a play. What do you think?
No, yeah, not at all. I don't like him being not 100%, so I don't like the upside really there. I do like getting bits and pieces of Detroit going against Sac, though. I don't mind some Tobias Harris. You could see an increase of steals and blocks on his end, possibly a double-double. I like getting exposure versus the Kings always. I think Marcus Morris has some upside here in a transition type game with the Kings turnovers. So, I like getting pieces. They're not my favorite tournament plays by any means, but I don't mind some exposure against the Kings defense.
Okay. Well, we can move on to the next one, which is arguably a top 2 game of the night. The Wolves at the Rockets. Rockets currently 8.5-point favorites and a total of 223.5.
Yeah, nice juicy total here. That's what we're looking for on this slate. Rockets definitely heavily implied team total here. Injury-wise on the Wolves, we got Gorgie Jang probable with the sore left hip, and Kevin Garnett ruled out with the sore right knee. So that's all on the injury news, nothing on the Rockets side. So jumping into the Wolves here, 8.5-point dogs, playing an overall soft defense, obviously a high total here. I like getting some value out of them. The only thing is just kind of shaky minutes every now and then for some of these guys, other than I think Zach LaVine on FanDuel is still strong play to look at, only 5,800, still playing big minutes pretty much regardless. Obviously like the matchup for him. I think we can look at Gorgie Jang, assuming he plays, bit underpriced on both sides, kind of back in the swing of things, being more offensively involved, crashing the boards. Good spot for him overall, so I don't mind him in cash either. And then I definitely think you can look pretty hard at Ricky Rubio on DraftKings, where he's vastly underpriced.
I like Towns quite a bit tonight. Houston has allowed the most DK points to centers over the last 5 games. If you want to expand that, they've allowed the second most over the last 10. I think it's a terrific spot, as Greg Smith and company tend to cut into Jang's minutes more than they have Towns.
Rightfully so. I mean, Greg Smith.
Right, because he's Greg Smith, right. And given his recent production, although 40 minutes in his last game, he hasn't quite hit that 55-point TK point mark in like 3 or 4 performances. I think it's a great spot for him.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's a strong tournament play as well, and I think you got to have some Andrew Wiggins exposure here as well in a very high total overall game where he can put up some points. The only thing is secondary stats are always lacking. So.
And I believe Wiggins is on a 5-game stretch of at least 30 FanDuel points.
Yeah,
like he's been up there. Yeah,
so yeah, he's been a fine play. I think I actually do think he is a bit underpriced overall as well. So I think you can possibly look at him in cash a little harder, just with the implied team total. But I think he generally is more of a tournament play.
We can go to the Rockets though, as they are implied to score 116. So a lot going on here, and I think that obviously begins with James Harden.
Yeah, I think James Harden's in a really good spot here. Minnesota's defense we've seen all season be very poor, even though they do have some individually good defenders. Just as a whole, they're absolutely terrible. I think it starts with their head coach, obviously. So I'm fine with Harden in cash. It's just kind of hard to get. It's very expensive on the slate.
I think I'm fine with Harden. Well, I think I'm fine. I think Harden's a great tournament play too. Compared to Russ tonight, where do you think – Westbrook's going to have higher ownership, right? Like, that's the thing. And Harden could produce equivalent numbers and play the entire time. Because, the Rockets' defense is also just a sham.
Yeah. I like the pace of this game. I like targeting 2 poor defenses, more possessions overall. I think he'll see an uptick in field goal attempts. I think an uptick in really everything. His assists will be high. He could definitely have one of those games where – he reaches a big double-double, 30 points, 10 assists, something like that. So I definitely like the spot for him. I think Russ or Harden choosing one. Obviously, you can't go both on DK realistically.
And there's one more we'll talk about in a bit too.
There's so many guys. You're really gonna have to pick your spots. And again, I think this is something that really strongly comes down to positional scarcity and where you're getting your value from. And you kind of maybe start with your value plays, like the strongest value play, and put him in, and then target your team kind of around that instead of targeting your team around Russ or Harden first and then fitting in value elsewhere. I think it's important to get that value first and then get the ceiling and floor from these studs.
Value plays like Michael Beasley, who has only logged over 20 minutes against Grizzlies whenever it was a blowout. But, still an insane usage rate since joining Houston. Still producing just crazy DraftKings numbers despite his limited time. I think he's fine in tournaments. I think it's a good spot. Again, I can get laughed at. I don't give a damn.
I'm not laughing.
Good.
He's a beast.
I was laughed at when he was minimum. And now that he's growing on everyone, whatever. I don't care.
No, yeah, it's fine. I think he's fine if he sees minutes. His usage is absolutely absurd. He's reaching Mo Buckets level here, which is scary. So yeah, if he sees extended time, his ceiling is pretty large. I still maybe on DraftKings, I think he might even creep up into the cash game territory. Maybe not this slate, but some slate eventually, because you're really struggling to find these value plays, and he opens up a lot with his minutes and just crazy high usage when he plays that kind of do have like a somewhat reliable floor there, because he's going to come in the game. He shoots, I think, right when he checks in, like walking right off the bench.
He came out of the womb shooting.
Yeah, he's just jacking up shots like crazy.
He's taken Montezuma's minutes, even though Montezuma's continues to start. He's slowly eating into Corey Brewer's. He's basically overtaken the rest of their depth.
He's overtaking the entire NBA. So
just wait.
He's back.
Harden's coming. 2 games, and Beasley will be playing over Harden.
Yeah, and that's kind of really it for Houston's side that I'm targeting. I think, there can be some Ariza appeal with his big minutes and just the implied team total. You figure he'll work his way into some points, fill up a pretty decent stat line. Not one of my favorite turning plays by any means, but I don't mind some exposure to be a bit contrarian.
And some Dwight, but I would rather pay the extra $600, $700, I think it is, for Cat. I just love Towns.
I agree. And Dwight, they do play tomorrow, so we'll see how his minutes are dispersed on the first leg of a back-to-back.
And back-to-back games with only 4 field goal attempts, which is really strange.
Yeah, they're back to just not – the team is just a mess. At this point, they might as well play Beasley 36 minutes and give majority of the shots. Just him and Harden just shooting every single time.
They did have the team meeting last night, which Beverly came out and said, I feel sorry for the team who plays us next. He didn't even say Minnesota. He just said the next team. I guess he wasn't looking ahead. Yeah, he said that. But it's still Houston. I'm not concerned.
No, that's big.
is that the news? Or we should have headlined that at the beginning of the podcast. Yeah, that's like, welcome to the Fantasy Labs podcast. Patrick Beverly said the next team should be worried.
That's better than Isaiah Thomas calling this a must-win game. This is
a lot of narrative tonight.
Huge narrative. I definitely like Harden though. Really, in both formats here, I think it's strong play that you kind of do want to look at targeting here, depending on value.
Another one looking at targeting, Blazers at the Pelicans. Blazers 1.5-point favorites. Notable because the line posted last night as Pelicans -1.5. So a line swing overnight of 3 points in favor of Portland and an over of 218 in this one.
Yeah, so again, a pretty high total here. We got the Blazers on back-to-back. We got the line movement, which when I woke up was still, I believe, New Orleans -1.5, which I thought was strange. So I just made a quick call, and they switched it to Blazers -1.5. So injury-wise on the Blazers side, we got Alexi Ajinça ruled out with the fractured sternum. We got Norris Cole, again, questionable with that lower back injury. So, and then on the – why do we have Myers Leonard here? Sorry, that was for the Pelicans team. Obviously, because Norris Cole plays on the Pelicans.
They are playing the Blazers tonight.
Well, it's just typed up wrong. John does not type. His order is.
That's what you get for sharing your Google Doc with me.
That is what I get. It's mine. And then so on the Blazers side, we got Myers Leonard has been ruled out with a dislocated left shoulder here, which I think kind of opens up some sneaky tournament plays here. So let's start into things with the Blazers. Now that they're favored by 1.5 points, they have a pretty high implied team total. It is kind of a big deal. So who are you looking at on the Blazers? We've seen these guys be a part of huge blowouts lately, massive. I think 4 of their last 6 over 16-point differential. So I think looking at the recent numbers is a bit misleading because of the blowouts, and now we have a 1.5-point spread. Very easy matchup. So I think it's time to maybe go back to the Lillard well.
Yeah, Lillard has a dud percentage of 28% over the last month, or this month anyways. But even so, as we said, a lot of that accounts for blowouts. And in this particular matchup, Lillard, 41.9 DK points on back-to-backs this season, and in a game in which they're favored by less than 2 points. It seems like he has crazy upside tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking at him pretty strongly. Again, it's just one of those things where you're gonna have to pick your spots on where you're gonna spend, what positions you're gonna spend on. We obviously have a lot of juicy plays. Pretty much every game has 2 or 3 really strong cash plays. It's kind of like solving a puzzle, and you want to fit, I think, your maximum floor and maximum ceiling together in that one lineup. So I think it's a tougher than usual slate, because the thing is, you might think like, oh, it's such an easy slate. There's so many good plays, but you have to think it's easy for everybody. So you have to get an advantage over everyone where it's going to be pretty easy to make a good team. So you're going to have to focus a bit more time on where to pick your spots here.
I also like Mason Plumlee quite a bit tonight. You look at the last game, 30 minutes against the Spurs, but expand upon that. 24 minutes when Myers Leonard is active, 30 minutes this season when he's been inactive. So already that's an increase in minutes. But he's also been gifted the highest opponent plus minus in this slate tonight, according to our models. Just a terrific matchup given the scenario overall.
Yeah, I don't mind Plumlee in this spot. We saw him get 30 points against the Spurs, which is pretty strong. So, I think he's a fine tournament player. I think he's sneaky. I think he'll be very under-owned here. So, and then I don't mind some CJ McCollum tournament exposure in this one. Obviously, the matchup is very easy here. So, if for whatever reason Lillard is off a bit and they rely a bit more on CJ, I think he's a fine pivot, getting exposure to the Blazers.
For the Pelicans, though, you want to talk about narratives. It starts with Tim Frazier. This is the revenge game. He started one game this season, and it was for the Blazers. Finished with a line of 12, 7, 7, and 2 steals in his one start. Although Portland literally had no other point guards available in that game. But he's minimum at FanDuel, 3,400 at DraftKings. And considering that Gentry played him more minutes than Tony Douglas for whatever reason last game, the Blazers backcourt, I think it's a terrific spot for him. Tournaments.
Yeah, it's tough. And we will say he's the projected starter as of now.
Yes.
So I think you can rely on a relatively high floor for minutes. But, I don't think I've seen enough. We've seen Frazier kind of in spots like this. I think the usage isn't really there for him on this starting unit to where I'm looking at him too strong. I do obviously love the cheap price, especially if you're in need. But I don't mind spending up a little bit more to get a more consistent, safer play. I think there's still some risk with Frazier, even with the starting lineup. And then I think it'll, depend a bit more on Norris Cole. There's more bodies to go around in the backcourt.
It depends all the bit on Norris Cole. If Norris Cole is active, he was playing 37 minutes before he got injured, Tim Frazier, just narratives are gone. I'm sorry. I'm going to weep.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people will kind of put Frazier in. They'll see that he's in the projected starting lineup, assuming he's starting, looking at last game, and it might be kind of chasing points a little bit. But you really have to look at the cheap price, and I think that's where the value lies, but just have a realistic projection for him.
And the weird thing about this, although the implied total, although we talked about the Blazers and length and how they are some strong tournament and cash plays, I don't think there are many strong cash plays for New Orleans here. Holiday's minutes volatile, like Gentry had hinted at.
High priced.
Yeah, exactly. His salary hasn't gone down to, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm having a lapse of. Anyways, his salary hasn't accounted for his actual minutes now. So he's only a tournament play. With Cole, Frazier, all the above, Douglas, the backcourt's so iffy. Anthony Davis, great spot, starting at the 5 in some cases now. Ashik started last game, but even so, I don't think he's a cash play.
Yeah, he is. He has the makeup of a cash play. I don't mind the matchup, but he's just not top priority for me.
Right.
Building my cash lineup.
Tournament, obviously upside.
There's a lot of good options on this slate where Anthony Davis isn't the number one expensive guy I'm looking at targeting, but yeah, absolutely. I think Anthony Davis is a great tournament play on this slate.
The Warriors at the Mavericks. Warriors road favorites at 8.5 points and a total of 222.5.
Yeah, we're looking at the only team this season to get 2 wins against the Warriors here. If the Mavs pulls one off, anchored assumedly by JJ Barea once again. So I think Warriors fans got to be afraid here for this tough matchup with Barea looming. Injury news on the Mavs side, we got David Lee, game time decision with a tweaked right groin, and that's it for this game. So jumping into the Warriors, this is obviously a very, very high implied team total, like usual with them. We got Iggy still sidelined, of course. So, I think the guy you look at here, obviously is Steph Curry. I think it's a great spot. We've had some trends on Curry as on the road with a spread under 10, and the numbers are definitely juicy because it makes sense. It's kind of one of those LeBron things. I like targeting these high-priced studs on the road because they have a less chance of sitting the entire fourth quarter due to under, single-digit spreads here. So I definitely like Curry. I think he's a very strong tournament play, one of my favorite tournament plays on this slate overall.
And since we're finally here now, you want to talk about tournaments? Exposure. Westbrook, Harden, then Curry, you think?
Exposure-wise?
Yeah.
No,
what do you think ownership?
What do I think it will be?
Yeah.
What do I think it should be?
What do you think it will be tonight? Because that's how I think it is. I think it's going to be Russ for sure, and then Harden, then Curry.
I think Harden and then Russ, and then Curry.
You think Harden over Russ tonight?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I could definitely see that. But the point being that, I think Curry either way is very quietly behind them. Even though he's on the road and he should play 35 plus minutes.
Yeah, the only thing here that I'm worried about, which is why these guys are stronger tournament plays for me rather than cash, is that the Warriors do play the Spurs tomorrow night.
Yes.
So I think this is a situation where if you do see that Warriors lead get up to 14, 15 heading into the fourth quarter, they won't be as pressed to lean on the starters to close it out or kind of play a bit harder when they have a big game tomorrow. So it's a scenario where, you look at kind of the downside that this game does turn into a blowout, and there isn't as much incentive to play them down the stretch because they need to get rest where they can.
And if that is the case, then obviously we have Mo Buckets ready to jump. 30.9 DK points since Iguodala got injured, as he's now in the rotation again, playing limited minutes, like 17.9.
That's all.
But it doesn't matter. Yeah, you get 18 minutes from Mo Buckets, like that's your winning GPP lineup right there.
Him and Beasley are definitely in the same type of spot as far as limited minutes, which sucks obviously for cash, but they do have some nice upside. We saw Mo Buckets have a classic Mo Buckets game last week, I believe.
And then where are you at on Thompson tonight? Because given his price, I think he's a good option, but I don't think he's like a necessity.
No, I don't either. I don't think you need that salary to spend on him tonight on this slate. I think it's not necessarily a true stars and scrubs type slate, but I don't think you really want too many of kind of these mid-range guys. Clay, maybe on FanDuel where he's 6,800 and you got to start two, I'd look at a little harder. But on DraftKings, I'm not really looking at him too strongly. I think he's a borderline cash tourney play where I see the upside. I think he does have a pretty high floor actually in this game. I wouldn't mind him in cash, just probably limit to FanDuel.
For the Mavericks, though, if I may move on.
No. We got like the best tournament play of the slate, John.
Oh, okay. That is your tournament play? You wrote it down in our shared Google Doc? Justin's okay. Well, in that case, yeah.
But it's mine too. I like it as well.
Well, then you can talk about it unless Justin wants to make another cameo and talk about it.
He's doing other stuff.
He's smiling at us oddly right now, so he could come over here, but never mind. He's stretched.
We said Draymond. He's all about it. I think Dre is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, tournament play. All things considered, I think will be a bit overlooked. We have multitude of other options at power forward people are looking at. If you want to go expensive, you lean Anthony Davis. It's just not a spot I don't think a lot of people are looking at Draymond, but this sets up for a game where he could definitely have a big line here. Triple-double within reach. The Mavs are willingly going small now. We can expect them to start Dirk at center again with Felton in the starting lineup. You're looking at a lot of minutes for Dre. This game stays close, only an 8.5-point spread. You're looking at a huge line potential for Dre here. Again, the only concern is that they do play the Spurs tomorrow, and you could see his minutes decreased if this game gets out of hand. But obviously for tournaments, we're not as worried about that. It's kind of what we're targeting. So I think the ownership with his upside and even his price, I think he's a great turning play.
Now, their ownerships, I believe, will be somewhat equivalent, especially this next guy lower owned. But as strong as you are on Green, I am that strong on Dirk tonight. 40 DK points in his last 6 games, only implied to score 29 at DraftKings. Just for his price alone, his production, his guaranteed minutes, despite starting at center, 40 DK points whenever he starts at center this season. I really, really like Dirk tonight.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, you go game log hunting and you look, he's been playing very well, and you might attribute that to him playing center, but I definitely worry kind of about the impact he's taking at the center position. Banging bodies. I mean, he's not the greatest in the greatest physical shape to withstand some of these large guys. So I'm kind of not expecting this to continue all season. I think Dirk has even said himself there's some matchups he's not looking forward to playing the center. Obviously, they've had great numbers running this lineup. I like the Mavs going small here. So I think Dirk, I think he's in a fine spot. I don't love the matchup at all. I think you can look at him on DraftKings where he continues to be a bit underpriced. I think
under-owned every night.
Yeah, and I think he's a fine tournament play. I don't think you need to go him in cash, whereas some of these last few games, I think he's been a much stronger cash game option.
Agree. I agree totally. Not to – I mean, I know you're looking to pick fights with me, but I like what you just said there.
I definitely like Dre more as a tournament play than Dirk, though. I think put a little side bet on that.
I actually prefer Dirk, and I'm going to take some shit for that, and I don't care. I like Dirk tonight a lot.
We can
celery on it. We can bet celery. That's fine.
No, tacos.
Tacos are better than celery. I agree. But finally,
another bad take.
This arguably it might be the best game in that. I don't even know. Suns at Lakers. Lakers 3-point home favorites and a total of 206.
Yeah, I think this is for all you college basketball haters out there who just rip on college basketball all season like you actually expect 18-year-old kids to play the game properly when they have coaches that are very strict with how they utilize each position, play as a team. And everybody's just hating on college basketball so much. Then the tournament rolls around. Everybody's all about it. You got NBA guys being the next expert in evaluating college players that they've only seen one game of, write people off. Ben Simmons is a bust, blah, blah, blah. And you look at the Suns-Lakers game, I do, at least being a college basketball and NBA fan, really just a basketball fan. I'll watch middle school basketball to get a sweat because that's how degen I am. But, I think you look at the Suns-Lakers game and you look at overall, it is going to be brutal, terribly bad. The Suns, we saw put up 69 points, I believe, last night. They're playing a back-to-back. Lakers obviously abysmal all season. So while I do think this could be good for fantasy purposes, it could be an absolute train wreck with just how poor both these teams are.
Yeah, and what I like to begin with the Suns is that since Brandon Knight has returned, their rotation has tightened up. It's essentially become 6 men and only 6 men. Ronnie Price logged 24 minutes last night, but it was only because of the blowout. He's been averaging 14 since Brandon Knight returned. And Knight, of course, 37 minutes since entering the starting unit. This is his first back-to-back since he's returned from injury, which is worrisome because he still played 33 minutes last night. But given his price at FanDuel, I still think he's a good tournament option tonight.
Yeah, I do too. And real quick, I'll get into the injuries in this game. We just got some Lakers injuries. Kobe, again, questionable with that right shoulder injury. We got Brandon Bass with the right eye corneal abrasion, questionable as well, which I think will have pretty decently large implications here. And then Huertas, probable with personal problems, so we can expect him to play in this one. So, yeah, moving on. I think you look at the Suns, and I agree with you. I think Booker and Len have been the two cash guys that we've been rolling out a lot lately. But now with Knight back, I'm not as high on Booker. I'm waiting for the field goal attempts drop, just overall usage rate dropping a bit to where his price hasn't dropped with it enough yet. So, while I do love the matchup, obviously, I'm still not on him in cash. I think he's more of a tournament play here, as is Brandon Knight for me. I think Alex Len, is still fine in cash formats, assuming, you can afford him. He's got a relatively soft price still. So he's a guy I'm looking at more in cash than Knight and Booker.
Yeah, the thing about Booker is that after the All-Star break without Knight, he was averaging 15.1 field goal attempts. Len and Teletovic were the next closest, but even they were averaging 14 and 12. And then Knight comes back, and now he's taking 18 a game. Booker's assists are up. He's averaging 3 more since Knight entered the starting lineup. But, obviously, when you have someone else taking 3 more field goal attempts than you, you'd much rather have those extra 3 shots rather than Booker just having 3 extra assists. So that's certainly taking away night in and night out now, which is why he's become strictly a tournament play. Mm-hmm. Len's still a team high usage rate over that time. Still like Len, especially in this matchup. But the tournament play we need to talk about, especially since he's going to be incredibly underowned in a terrific matchup, is Tyson Chandler, who's still playing 27 minutes a night in this starting unit. This matchup is great for him.
Yeah, this is a really like a 5th level sneaky tournament play. I don't think anybody's going to be on him at all. I'd be willing to guess I don't know if anybody will go him in the DraftKings live final, honestly. You're looking at just so many guys at that position in other spots where Chandler will be overlooked here, but he could definitely double-double, some offensive rebound putbacks, great matchup for him. And his minutes are safe enough to where he has some actually pretty good upside.
For the Lakers, though, also a lot going on here. There's a bunch to talk about, but I guess we can start with Brandon Bass, who's questionable tonight. Larry Nance played 25 minutes last game. If Brandon Bass is out again, I personally think Nance will get 28 minutes. If you want to hedge that, maybe a slightly over 25 to be safe, but I think it's a really good play against the Suns tonight.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
You were laughing. You were smiling. Like you had this crooked smile as I was saying that. So you obviously hate the play.
No, I don't hate
You don't have to be like me and just agree. Like it's okay.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny. That's all. Just Larry said it.
Larry Nance all the way.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a donkey play, but I see the appeal.
So with Michael Beasley, it's okay.
No, Beasley's
somebody's got to bear the Larry Nance torch, and it's going to be me.
That's fine. So yeah, Lakers side, I'm not looking at anyone in cash. I think you can, we are getting the Suns, so easy matchup for all these guys. I think Kobe is being questionable, kind of swings a few things. This being the latest game of the night, we might not know. You kind of never know with Kobe if he'll go full minutes and steal usage and just wreck their entire team to where you're looking at other cash options such as D'Angelo Russell and Jordan Clarkson is not being as strong with Kobe there. I prefer those Kobe out to give a harder look at those guys, preferably in cash. I think Clarkson had a huge dud last game. Continues to be a bit underpriced on FanDuel, where he's been used a lot as of late. Obviously, I think a lot of people look at this match with the Suns and roll him again willingly. But for me, I think I want Kobe to be out to do that.
But it also matters if Lou Williams comes in. And I think that is also accounted for Clarkson's minutes.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Because his usage rate off the bench is just insane. He comes in, he starts firing, and he's produced actually the last few games. He's scored over 25 DK points. He's been good. He's been good for Lou Williams. I think he's a good tournament play. But yeah, it just depends entirely on how the backcourt shakes out with Kobe. That's what it breaks down to.
Yeah, for sure. And given that we might not know, I'm pretty much limiting all these guys to tournament plays. You look at the Suns being an easy matchup. And on some other nights, we look to target that. We have so many good matchups and so many juicy games that we don't need to rely on the Kobe maybe playing, maybe not. He might play 12 minutes, he might play 28. You just don't know at this point. I think they're fine tournament players. I think they'll be under on it. I think Julius Randle is in a fine spot here. I don't mind his upside against Phoenix. I'd look to get some tournament exposure to him where he'll have pretty low ownership overall. So it's really just tournament plays only for me.
I think if I had to pick one, it's still only tournament plays, but outside of Larry Nance the GOAT, of course, it's D'Angelo Russell for me, who just last few games, under 25 DK points, playing limited minutes the last couple of games, due to blowouts. If the situation turns, which obviously you can use that to your advantage in tournaments, that volatility, and which is why I think he could be a great tournament play tonight.
Yeah, definitely. The Suns' defensive efficiency against guards is very strong here. So I definitely like his upside as well. That's the slate. We got the 8-game slate. We can jump into the positional quick hits if you want to start that. So we'll pull up the pricing on DraftKings and go from there.
You want to start us off with the guards?
Yeah, sure. All right, yeah. So point guards, starting with the top, we got Russell Westbrook. I think a lot of people kind of look at the game against Philly he had earlier this season where he went off, but kind of forget that Kevin Durant was out that game. Obviously, Westbrook's a strong play regardless. I think he's a fine cash play. I think he's a great tournament play. I am worried about the 15.5-point spread where we could see him sit. But again, this is a scenario where if this game gets into a blowout, it's going to be directly because of Russ and Durant. And in this type of game, they do contribute points together. They're going to score a lot. They could have 90 through 3 quarters here. So I'm looking at a pretty safe floor and an exceptionally high upside here. It's the only problem is kind of price fitting him in, or we have some other top studs here. Speaking of, we have Steph Curry, 10-3, a little bit cheaper. I think he's a stronger tournament play because he's on the road with a single-digit spread here. I like the upside he has. Again, they do play the Spurs on a back-to-back tomorrow, so there's some downside with minutes in the fourth quarter if this game creeps up into the blowout range. Moving on, we got Dame Lillard, 9,200, been a part of massive blowouts lately, which for box score hunters, you might see that and kind of fade him a little bit, but this is a 1.5-point spread, so I'm looking at a big game out of Dame, obviously an easy matchup there. Kyle Lowry, we're expecting to sit out, so I don't like the option there, even if he does play going against Boston there. Kyrie, I think tournament play only really with LeBron back. There's no need to really target these guys too much when all three are available. Drew, we're not really on because still a high price and kind of a lowered usage as of late. I think Isaiah Thomas is an interesting tournament play on DK. He's immensely underpriced at 7,300. He did call us a must-win, could carry an extra low with Jay Crowder out as well. Brandon Knight, we love as a tournament play going against the Lakers backcourt. High volume of shots lately, he's just been missing. So you look at the Lakers defense, that could turn around real quick. Ricky Rubio, I think, is in a great spot, pretty strong tournament play. I think he's a cash option on DK due to his lowered price. D'Angelo Russell, we just talked about in the last game. He's a pretty strong tournament play at 6,700. Prefer him definitely if Kobe sits. Let's see, Ish Smith, don't mind for tournament exposure at all. Jordan Clarkson, I think you can look at a bit with the ease of matchup, but more so if Kobe's out. Darren Collison, I think, is a fine cash game play. If Rondo, who's questionable, is ruled out, I think Collison's tournament only if Rondo plays. He's not dirt cheap anymore where he's a must cash play. Moving on, let's see, we got Isaiah Cannon, dirt cheap on FanDuel, where I think he's a stronger option than DK. I think he's 3,900 on FanDuel, 4,500 on DK. So I like the floor for him, around 20. I just don't see the massive upside, so I think he's more of a cash play to save salary. Moving on, I think Brandon Jennings at 4,300 if Elfrid Payton is out, although it's a difficult matchup overall for the Magic. Assists could be down going against good defense. I still like the low salary and relatively high floor for him, assuming, Elf is out if he is ruled out. So I don't mind him in cash. After that, we got Corey Joseph, 3,800. I think assuming Kyle Lowry does rest, I'm fine going him in cash. I think we saw his floor last game. It's something I don't expect again to see here. So I think he's a great way to save money on this slate, especially to afford some of these more expensive guys. Tim Frazier, 3,400 on DK. Min price on FanDuel. I am a little bit, afraid of his downside. I think a lot of people are chasing his points. I think you could talk yourself into him possibly in cash if none of these other cheap guys open up, such as Brandon Jennings. But I'm considering him more of a tournament play here.
And only if Norris Cole's out in tournaments.
Definitely,
like Cole plays, you don't want any of them even in tournaments.
I think that's it for point guard that I'm looking at here. Let's move on. You want to get shooting guard or you want me to?
We can switch back and forth. People will get a behind-the-scenes look if you're viewing the video. Oh, you don't have – what do you call it whenever you go down but it scrolls up?
Yeah,
inverted.
I'm a normal human being.
That's weird. I hate normal human beings. Okay, let's oh, man, this is a wreck. All right, James Harden, 10-4. Given the implied total of 116 points for Houston, we love Harden tonight, obviously, in cash and tournaments. Oladipo, he's one of the stronger tournament plays in Orlando, but at the same time, for 7,400, given all the matchups in tonight's slate, is not exactly necessary. And that can be said also for Klay Thompson, who's at 7K at DraftKings. Cheaper at FanDuel, where we're fine with him in tournaments, but once again, not really a priority in this big slate. We mentioned Devin Booker's stats since Brandon Knight has returned, since the All-Star break. So, yeah, Devin Booker, more of a tournament play, but really kind of off him tonight. Andrew Wiggins has been just on a crazy streak as of late. Prior to his last game of 24 DK points, he has a stretch of at least 34 dating back to his last 5 performances, and given that matchup with Houston is a strong play. Zach LaVine, incredibly cheap at FanDuel. That's where we prefer him more in cash, but even so, 6K at DraftKings, still a strong play. Caldwell Pope, given the matchup with Sacramento's backcourt, cash, tournament.
Cash, yeah. I'm looking at him on FanDuel as cash as well.
Guaranteed 38 minutes every night, only 5,600. That's just a terrific matchup. Although guaranteed the minutes, Evan Fournier, bad matchup with Cleveland and LeBron as a whole, so we're off of that one. Kobe Bryant, not on even for 5,300, but more or less you have to monitor his status because that will clearly shake out for all of Lou Williams. We'll get to him in a second. D'Angelo Russell, Jordan Clarkson, etc. Evan Turner, even for 5,200, not really on, although he was supposed to take the rotation spot. He clearly has not. Lou Williams, 4,900. It's a bit pricey, but if Kobe's out, still a fine tournament play given his usage rate off the bench. Let's see here. Raymond Felton for 3,800. He's going to start, but it's just a bad matchup. You don't want any of that.
You want J.J. Barea, the Warriors killer.
He really is the Warriors killer. Other than that, though, there's not really any dumpster diving to do among off-ball guards.
Yeah, that's pretty ugly.
Yeah.
All right, I'll
pass it back to you for small forward.
Small forward here, so. All right, yeah. So starting at the top, we got Kevin Durant. Obviously, a great matchup for him. The only thing is minutes concern. I don't think you necessarily need to pay up, especially on DraftKings where he's 800 more than LeBron. LeBron is criminally underpriced, who is the next player at just 9,300 on the road, single-digit spread. I actually like LeBron quite a bit in this spot. I think he's a fine play in cash on DraftKings. And then moving down, we got a big salary difference between Durant, LeBron, and it jumps $3K down pretty much to Chandler Parsons, where I actually don't mind some tournament exposure to Parsons here in this spot. Going down more, Tobias Harris going in Sacramento. Could see an increase of steals and blocks, reach double-digit rebounds possibly. I don't mind tournament exposure to him, especially kind of at the small forward position where it's not as deep. After that, I think you can have some tournament exposure to Trevor Ariza, only because of the high implied team total there. Pretty fast pace in that game, not a lot of defense. So I like that spot for Ariza quite a bit. Moving down more, wow, small forward is garbage on this side. I think you're looking on DraftKings and cash. I think it's fine, kind of going LeBron. It's just very discounted there and offers obviously a really high floor. Moving down, we got Michael Beasley, John's favorite play,
absolutely
favorite player, I believe, at just 4,100, who has some Mo buckets going on with him and offers some pretty incredible upside in very limited minutes. So I don't mind him as a tournament play, especially at that soft price. Harrison Barnes, 4,100, pretty cheap. With Iguodala out, I don't mind some exposure to him as well. I think you can look at him in cash to save money at small forward. After that, is that really all there is? Wow.
It's a bad slate for small forwards.
Yeah, you can't even dumpster dive or anything. So tournament-wise, to be contrarian, I think you're kind of looking at the, maybe Chandler Parsons type, the Trevor Ariza, the Tobias Harris to kind of pivot. I think a lot of people, especially in tournaments, will have one of Durant or LeBron. And while you should obviously have exposure to them, you'll see an increase of ownership with the lack of options behind them. So,
and given the $600 decrease in salary, LeBron obviously is probably going to be highly owned tonight because it's a great play.
Yeah, 9,300.
You shouldn't avoid it in cash. It's a great play.
And with not many options behind him. Do you want to get power forward?
Yep. We'll just continue the switching. Oh, God, we need to invert this. DeMarcus Cousins at the top of the power forward list. Good matchup, contrarianism for tournaments, but I just don't think you need to pay that price, although $900 difference from FanDuel. I don't think you need to pay for cash because only for $200 less, you have Anthony Davis, a terrific matchup with Portland. More tournaments, though. We're not really on any of the Pelicans for that matter in cash. Draymond Green, both Jay and Justin's favorite play at power forward tonight. Only 8K at DraftKings. Great matchup with a smaller Mavericks lineup who's been starting Raymond Felton as of late with Dirk at center. So, yeah, just a terrific overall matchup for him. Kevin Love, only 71, but not the best spot. Good for tournament, sure. But given that LeBron and Kyrie all are back now, healthy, rested, not really the best spot for him. Nerlens Noel, even against Oklahoma City, although the Thunder are 15.5-point favorites tonight, more of a tournament spot, not really on him in cash, even for 6,700. Dirk, who is one of my favorite plays at power forward, despite what Jay and Justin say. As I had mentioned, 40 DK points his last 6 games. I think he's in a great spot tonight, despite the matchup. Julius Randle is more of a contrarian play in tournaments just because he's playing the Suns. Only 6,300. If he gets the minutes, he's going to produce, so that's a big tournament play. Gorgui Dieng is more probable than actually, as I say this now, we have a bit of breaking news. Dieng is expected to play, and against Houston, that is a terrific matchup. Greg Smith has been eating into his minutes a bit, but even so, 28 minutes, we've seen Gorgui Dieng produce in that.
I don't mind Dieng in cash.
Absolutely. Aaron Gordon, 18 minutes his last 2 games, I believe. Andrew Nicholson has played 23 for some reason. So tournament, sure, but the volatility in their rotation is just an awful spot. Yeah. Ryan Anderson as Anthony Davis. Omar Ashik started last game, but if Anthony Davis starts to center tonight, Ryan Anderson is still playing 27 minutes since Ajinka has been ruled out. He's a good tournament play. David Lee is questionable. Like his absence could open up even more depth for Zaza, but I mean, we're not really on any of them.
He won't play much.
Yeah, only really Dirk. Carl Landry has returned to the bench now that Jeremy Grant is back, played only 11 minutes in his last game. So that train has come and gone. Amir Johnson played 25 minutes in this matchup with Toronto. I really like this spot, especially with Jonas Jerebko ruled out. That might not seem like a big deal, but it definitely opens up spots with Jay Crowder also out. Both he and Jared Sullinger, which, we'll talk to him when we get to centers because he's more of a power forward at FanDuel. And a tournament play strictly would be Andrew Nicholson, assuming that Orlando gets blown out. But that is only an assumption.
That's absurd.
Yeah, that's just a tournament play. We're dumpster diving.
I know, yeah.
And actually, for 3,200, he is the best dumpster diver.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Let's see when we go. Quincy Hayes, he's going to play 30 minutes and get 5 points. Yeah. And finally, we'll kick it to you for centers.
Yeah, and I just want to say real quick, the Carl Landry train was really fun to be on. I enjoyed that ride, quick as it was, yeah. But it was a good one. And John, I gotta ask, did you play Halo with the inverted controller?
Yes.
The original Xbox?
Yes, you always do inverted.
You're a monster. I didn't.
Always inverted.
Probably goes into why I don't anymore still. Let's jump into center.
Mario Kart doesn't come in inverted, so he doesn't understand it.
I'm old school, man. Starting at the top of center, 8,300 is Karl Anthony Towns. I think we both are pretty high on him in tournaments. I think he'll be overlooked as well, especially on DraftKings where you have generally a lot of centers underpriced. So love the tournament upside he has. I think Andre Drummond you can look at in cash. He's a bit underpriced still on FanDuel as well. But I think, again, we have cheaper centers I'm kind of looking at in cash. That makes Drummond more of kind of a tournament play, and I want to allocate that money somewhere else, getting some of these other studs and great matchups as well. Dwight Howard, definitely don't mind some tournament exposure to soft 7,500 here in a very, very high total game. They are on the first leg of back-to-back, but I like targeting him in tournaments, especially if he does see big minutes in this one, could put up a pretty massive line where there'll be extra possessions. Alex Len, I'm fine with in cash going against the Lakers here. Easy matchup, obviously. Jared Sullinger, love for tournament exposure. He's again underpriced and he's always under-owned consistently. So really like the upside that he has there. Getting into probably one of our favorite cash game plays, Enes Kanter at just 5,200, the 15.5 point spread, the ease of matchup, the consistency late, the floor even. So kind of everything going his way.
But don't think you'll be sneaking him into your lineup. He's not a sneaky play anymore. If anything, his ownership's going to be quite high.
But I still don't mind him in tournaments. I think if you're in some of these smaller tournaments, I think it makes a bit more sense to possibly fade him, where you think the field will overall be high on him.
I think it's a fine cash play.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a strong cash play for sure, yeah. Moving on, let's go Tyson Chandler, one of our favorite really sneaky tournament plays with a very easy matchup. People will definitely overlook him there. We'll get into my boy Bismack Biyombo, just 4,600 still on DraftKings. So if Valanciunas is ruled out with a hand injury, I think you can definitely roll Biyombo back. FanDuel makes it a bit more interesting where you can't start two centers, whereas DraftKings you could possibly go Kanter and Biyombo in cash. Both definitely strong cash game options. We just saw the upside Biyombo has. So I like rolling it back with him if Valanciunas is ruled out. Moving on after that, it gets pretty ugly here. We got Mo Buckets if we're going to dumpster dive. If that game does turn into a blowout, see obscenely high usage in his limited court time. After that, did we miss Plumlee?
You missed, let's say you missed him right there, yeah.
But it's John's fault. Plumlee at 4K with Myers Leonard out going against New Orleans. Definitely a strong, very strong tournament play. He'll be on their own. He's dirt cheap. So
as we said in the full podcast that you should have listened to, 30 minutes without Myers Leonard this season. And according to our models, the highest opponent plus minus allowed to centers in this slate. So really good
strong spot for him. I think he's along the lines of kind of a Tyson Chandler type sneaky play where I think you definitely want some exposure there. Save money on this slate especially. After that, I don't really like dumpster diving too much, especially at the center position.
I think given Kanter, Plumlee, Chandler's prices, like those are the dumpster dives tonight. Like you don't even need to go beyond 4K.
Yeah, I mean, Greg Smith, who continues to see minutes here. Yeah, so, I think a lot of value opens up at the center position. I think we got a few questionable kind of game time decision guys, depending on which route they go, opens up some value here and there. We got Brandon Jennings continuing to be a focal point in cash games at that cheap price, but the matchup is significantly tougher here. So we got value plays pretty much at every position, and then we got studs at every position. We got Westbrook, we got Harden, we got LeBron underpriced, we got Anthony Davis, we got Boogie, we got Drummond. I mean, you just got all the top plays. So looking at this, I mean, so since we're here for the DraftKings Live Final, who is the one guy? I think this was your question, by the way, if you want to ask it.
I wrote it in our shared Google Doc. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's the one thing you wrote.
The question, you didn't even get the question out. The question is, Jay, I'll ask you, since we are here in San Diego for the DK Championship, what one player do you think on the screen? Or one player do you think will be in the starting lineup tonight, or in the winning lineup tonight?
I'm gonna call my shot and say Steph Curry. I think he'll be overlooked on this tournament overall. So I think people will spend their, get their one stud, and it'll be someone other than Curry. So I'm looking at the upside with him as a road single-digit favorite. Very high upside, obviously. I like everything about his low ownership, his upside, his price. So I'm looking at him to be the guy on the winning lineup.
I think it will be a Cannon at FanDuel, where he's 3,900, but we're not here for that. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Isaiah Cannon, who I think is a great play tonight.
His ceiling is
really though, I think it's Karl Anthony Towns tonight. Given the value at center, I think he's incredibly overlooked in a great matchup with Houston. And more so than Dwight Howard, as we mentioned. Dwight Howard only 4 field goal attempts in back-to-back games. I think Towns is a great play. Played 40 minutes in his last game. Jang is more likely to get spelled rather than Towns, since they added the extra rotation in their front court. I think Towns, terrific spot, overlooked given the value at center. I'd pay up for him tonight.
Yeah, I love the call, actually. I really like, you got your traditional save at center on this slate with either Biyombo, if fouls out, will be incredibly highly owned, even in this tournament. That's 100 people. I think he'll still carry a very heavy ownership. But I do like double dipping at center and possibly paying up for Towns. Even Drummond, I think, who has pretty big upside here.
I'm not trying to get a bonus answer in, but I do like Plumlee quite a bit tonight too.
I
really
like a lot of sneaky plays.
Yeah.
We'll see. I think a lot of these guys with multiple entries will definitely see take some chances here.
Oh yeah,
get some lower owned guys.
Get some Maverick stats going.
We'll see how it develops, and just want to shout out our boy Pete, CSU Ram 88. Best of luck in the tournament as well.
And by the way, additional content once you're done listening to this, he'll be posting a lineup construction video of his championship lineup. So you should definitely stay tuned for that.
Definitely. All right, well, that's Slate for you guys. We'll get off. And good luck, everybody, on this slate tonight. Just remember to take some extra time to build your team, because it's going to be pretty easy for everyone. There's a lot of good plays. So take your time maximizing your upside and floor on this one. And we'll get with you guys again for a pod on the Sunday night, breaking down the Monday slate.
Another live pod.
Yeah, actually, it will be another live pod. We'll probably do that one outside by the pool when the sun's out. But until then, good luck, everybody.